My name is Ricky Aguilar. I am the current CMAA student chapter president at Collin College. I am in my junior year, and yeah.
So what motivated you to pursue the construction industry?
My dad's always worked in construction. He's always done concrete as long as I've been alive. He's worked for a subcontractor. He started off as just any other laborer, and through the years worked his way up to more management positions. So I've always sort of been exposed to construction, but I've just never really personally had an interest in it. What essentially changed was when I was in high school, I originally wanted to go to school for engineering. Specifically, I wanted to do mechanical engineering because in my mid-ish teens, I sort of developed this like love for cars and racing, and I was like, you know what, it'd be kind of cool to like get to work on race cars and whatnot. But I quickly realized in high school that math, science, physics, as much as I loved them, they didn't love me.
Relatable. That is relatable.
Yeah. So I remember math, I was technically a year ahead. I'm like, I recognize that math and science aren't my strong suit. I know how much university costs. I'm like, I don't want to risk going to a big university, spending thousands upon thousands of dollars, and essentially potentially failing out. So when I first got to high school, freshman year, I had signed up sort of unintentionally for a machine shop class. For those who might not know, the easiest way I can sum it up is think of wood shop, but metal instead of wood. It's a lot of fabrication, anything from basic tools and parts. You're talking parts for rocket ships, just depending on how in depth you really want to go. So all throughout high school, I took that shop class. I think it was my junior year where I actually went to go compete at Skills USA. And I remember the whole premise was, as long as we made it to state, that means we got a week vacation in Corpus Christi during school. So I was like, little 11th grade me, I was like, you know what? Let's do that. And junior and senior year, I decided, okay, when I graduated, let me take a year break. Let me work a bit, save some money, buy myself a laptop, and save up some money to pay for a community college. I would decide I would pursue an associate's degree in advanced manufacturing. I graduated in 2018, and I said, all right, I'm going to give myself 1 year. So at the time, my dad was a superintendent for a concrete subcontractor that did primarily infrastructure work for the city of Dallas, but it was more so like think streets, sidewalks, alleys, that sort of stuff was bread and butter. So I said, all right, that's a perfect place for me to go work, earn a bit more money, because at the time I was working at a barbecue restaurant earning minimum wage. I remember I started at 18 years old working in concrete, and I was over the moon that I was earning $12.50. It's funny to look back on now because for $12.50, I was out in 100-degree heat, pouring concrete in the middle of the road, day in, day out. And I was so excited about it. But so I essentially passed my year. I saved up some money. I bought myself a very nice, at the time, gaming laptop because I was like, well, if I'm going to be doing a lot of 3D modeling with AutoCAD and whatnot, I was like, I'm going to need something that has like its own dedicated graphics card to handle all the 3D modeling. Plus, it's a plus that I can play video games on it. Mm-hmm. So I signed back up to school. And so this would be fall of 2019. The big problem with going to school for manufacturing is that just like the Skills USA competition, not a lot of people know about it or know what it is. So I oftentimes ran into problems where I would sign up for a class and then there wouldn't be enough students to actually run the class. I essentially did that sort of on and off, taking 2-3 classes a semester as opposed to the 5 classes I was supposed to be taking so that I could earn my associates in two years. Ultimately, I had a few things happen here and there in 2020. I remember being I remember being ecstatic because, at the time it was all, oh, we're gonna go home for 2-3 weeks because the sickness going on. And I remember I had a class where it was teaching us CNC coding, which, to put it simple, it's you can create a 3D model on AutoCAD and then upload the file to a machine that will then essentially cut out the piece for you out of a chunk of metal.
So is this also like programming?
Yes, in a way.
Okay.
So essentially, CNC machines have their own type of programming language known as G code. With G code, essentially, I want to say it's from 0 to 99, and each number has its own specific action attached to it. So, like, I don't remember the specifics of it, but it's like, say, G03 would start the machine, G04 would stop it, et cetera, et cetera. You would basically then, you had ones where you would move along the X axis, Z axis, Y axis. But so the program, or the software, I should say, where you would 3D model would essentially write out the code for you. The problem was, once it's in the actual machine, you can hand edit the code. So the professors were trying to teach us by programming everything and writing it out as opposed to having the machine do it for us. All ecstatic about that. So that would have been what? Lockdown was in 2020. I kept trying to finish out my classes, but it just wasn't quite working out. And at the time, I was still working in concrete. By this point, I had gone from being a laborer to essentially being a foreman and running my own little crew. In mid 2021, we got the news that we lost our biggest contract with the city of Dallas. Upon having lost that contract, I worked for a company that primarily did natural gas and pipeline. We were the only branch that did concrete for whatever reason. From what I basically gathered, our branch had screwed up more than a few times, and losing out this contract was essentially the last straw. They decided that they were going to shut down the branch. Or I guess per union rules and legal reasons, we had to be given a 3-month heads up. So they stayed open for the 3 months that they legally had to after we received this notice. Right after we received the news, we got word our project coordinator found work and he quit within a week of the news. So I got put into the office for the first time, and I was like, okay, well, this is kind of cool. It was a lot to learn because I had 2 weeks to learn how to do this guy's job. It was cool nonetheless. And come October, the company officially shut down, and I began to work at Costco as someone who pushed carts, and then worked my way into the bakery. So at the time being, I had a friend who had actually just completed the associate's degree for manufacturing. And what I quickly realized was that he was earning $3 more than I was. But fun fact, Costco has insanely amazing benefits. Like, best in the business, like in general. Costco has some of the best insurance that any company will offer you. I had a friend who was making a few dollars more than I was, but he had no benefits. And here I am earning close to the same, but I have benefits. And I was like, okay, well, this isn't really going to work out. Also, quick side note, fun fact, my friend who graduated, I actually worked with his dad at Costco. That was a fun one to find out. I spent a good year sort of just lost, trying to figure something out, because I knew that long term, even though Costco is a great company to work for and they will offer you the means to move up and make great money, I just didn't want to work retail.
But with all your trade and technical background,
so
how come you didn't pursue a job in the industry?
The thing was, I'd only ever had experience more so as a laborer, and I didn't want to return to construction with essentially me making a living with my body, because I knew that in the long run, it takes a toll.
It does.
It genuinely takes a toll on the body. So I was like, I would like to return, but in the office side. But I'll sort of explain how that happened. So I was at Costco for a year and a half, 2 years at that point, and I had a friend explain to me what he called the Costco trap. In that there's a lot of people who begin working at Costco not having any plan, but knowing that they don't want to work there forever.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, Costco will quickly start paying you well. I knew guys who were pushing carts making $26 an hour. And so on top of that, Sundays at Costco are automatically overtime. You usually don't work more than 40 hours, but Sundays are always time and a half. So, a lot of these guys on Sundays are making, what that be, $39 an hour. Just to push carts.
Wow.
He said that a lot of times what happens is that a lot of people will start working at Costco. They'll maybe still be finishing at school. They finish school, but now the problem is they're earning more at Costco than an entry-level position in the field. And so that actually happened to our manager in the bakery. He had gone to school for it was something environmental related, environmental science, something like that. Point is, when he graduated, he was already the bakery manager, earning 80-ish K to run a department. And he was like, no other place offered me what Costco offered me.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where he even debated joining the Navy, and they couldn't match Costco's offer. So
Costco also do tuition reimbursement?
To a certain extent. So they recently rolled out a program 4 years ago. You can receive funding up to $2,500 up to 4 years if you're pursuing a bachelor's degree. So in the long run, Costco will give you $10,000 to go to school. I knew about the trap. That friend later found a job with Goldman Sachs, the wealth management place thing, and he's doing pretty well for someone who has no degree and moved here from a small town in Louisiana. Shout out to that guy. He was a real one. But so he kind of filled me in on this plan. So I was like, okay, I have to get out of here within a reasonable amount of time so that I don't become trapped.
Mm-hmm.
But I was, like I said, at the time I was feeling very lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do. But I sort of found myself missing working in construction. And I was like, man, like I missed kind of getting to build something tangible, getting to know that, like, hey, I did this road, I did this sidewalk. And I was telling my girlfriend about it one day, and her dad just so happened to overhear me talking about it. And he was the one who suggested, why don't I go back to school for construction management? Now, I am first generation Mexican American here in the US. So I don't have a lot of the previous knowledge or backing that like a lot of more established students might have. So I didn't know that this was something you could go to school for. I always thought in construction, you start off as a laborer, you work your way up, and eventually you get into the office.
Right.
So when I found this out, I was like, holy crap. Like, then began my search for a school that offered construction management. I had found a few, and I was like, you know what, let me look at Dallas College, because that's where I was going to school for manufacturing. And I said, you know what, well, let me check Collin College nearby. And when I checked it out, it just so happened that 2 years prior to that, they had just launched their bachelor's program for construction management. And so I was like, you know what, a bachelor's degree at a community college price, you can't beat that. Because even if I don't end up liking it, I'm not in the hole for $7,000 a semester. So I was like, you know what, let's give this a shot. And that was fall of 2022. And so I had signed up for classes to begin fall of 2023. Thankfully, some of my credits from my first attempt at school had transferred over, so I was able to complete my associates by the, let me think, if I'm in second semester junior year. So I was able to complete my associates in about a year.
Oh, wow.
So with that, so when I first started going to classes there, I was not skeptical, but I was like, all right, well, I was feeling a little hopeful. I was like, let's see how well this goes. Because, I was nervous. At the time, I was 23, starting school all over again. It was at that point in life where I was starting to see a lot of my high school friends, on social media graduating and stuff. And I was like, all right, well, here I am starting from zero. So I was like, let's sort of see how this goes. And I immediately loved it. The very first professor I had, I'm very good friends with to this day. And he gave an amazing introduction to the course and the program itself. And as I progressed through it, I for sure became like, yes, this is for sure what I want to do. And so from there, so in order to graduate with your associate's degree, you need to have an internship. One of the final classes is a co-op class where your internship doubles as credit for your school. So at the time being, I was like, okay, well, I don't really know how to find an internship. The school had held their job fair, and I didn't have a whole lot of luck, but I was like, all right, well, we'll keep trying. 2023, yeah, December 2023, I'd gone out to a wedding, and I had a friend who just so happened to strike a conversation up with this guy who was just kind of sitting there by himself. Because you know how like weddings, sometimes you'll be like that odd person invited and you don't really know anyone. So my friend is the real talkative type. So they kind of got to know each other. And it turns out that this guy was a project manager for a glass subcontractor. And so he hooked it up with an internship to begin with. And I was like, all right, cool. So I was like, all right, well, at least I have my internship set. So I was like, all right, well, I don't really have anything else to worry about for the rest of the year because I know I have it there ready to go. So also that December, we had a new professor join as the head of the bachelor's program. So up until that point, the only competition that Collin College had done was the NAHB residential competition, the National Association Home Builders out in Las Vegas. I'd been told from the start that you'll make the most money in commercial. Mm-hmm. Not to mention, if you work in commercial, you have an easier time moving from commercial to residential, as opposed to residential to commercial. So I was like, all right, well, let's shoot
for real estate.
Yeah. So I was like, let's shoot for commercial because then at least if I don't like it, I can pivot to residential. Mm-hmm. So when this professor came on, he talked about a different competition that they used to do at the university that he taught at, mm-hmm. which was the Texo commercial competition. So I got sort of nominated by a different professor, or I got recommended, I should say, to compete in this competition. So I was like, you know what? I'm like, let's give it a shot. It sounds like fun. We'll see how this goes. Long story short, it didn't go well. So at Texo, there's many different categories you can sign up for. The one that we had done, we had two teams compete. One competed in the commercial competition, and my team competed in the design build, which, to quickly explain, design build basically means you're given a set of parameters and conditions that you need to meet. So it's like we were given a plot of land and we were told, okay, this is to be a homeless shelter that has to be able to fit X amount of men's beds, X amount of women's beds. It has to have a clinic, a cafeteria, et cetera, et cetera. you have from 8 a.m. in the morning till midnight to design and put together a complete estimate of what this project will cost, as well as a timeline to build it. Go. And so we do it in groups of 6, which for those who don't work in construction, putting together something like that is usually a few month long process to put something like that together. So to give a bunch of college students who have no genuine experience 16 hours to put all of that together, it's quite the undertaking.
Right.
Now,
and that's where being able to utilize different people's skills and strong suits and,
exactly
spreading the work among everybody.
Yeah.
So how did you guys do? I mean, was it obtainable in 16 hours?
No, for one reason, and I still argue this with the professor to this day. I will never let him live this down because he still refuses to acknowledge it. With design build, we were all construction management students. With design build, you really want to have at least 2 architect students on because they have to design the building.
Right.
You're not given a building to go off of. You have to ground up design some sort of concept. The professor thought we would be fine because I knew how to work a software called Revit.
Right.
Revit, yeah. So Revit is just a 3D modeling architecture software. He thought I'd be fine. I had about an hour-long crash course on this thing. He thought I'd be fine.
That's enough time to learn the whole platform and design a whole building from ground up. That sounds so reasonable.
Revit, the parent company of Revit is Autodesk. Autodesk also created AutoCAD and Fusion 360, which I was previously familiar with because of my manufacturing background. So when he taught me Revit, I was like, I picked up on it quickly.
Yeah, because it all has the same functions within every single platform.
Exactly. They are all the same. And, once you learn one, it doesn't take a whole lot more to learn the other.
Yep.
So he was like, all right, well, you guys will be fine. And so, me not knowing any better, I was like, okay, we'll be fine. Well, the problem quickly became that I could create a 3D model, but I don't know how to design a building.
Right.
I'm like, so every project or every competition is based off of a real project. So in our case, the homeless shelter that we were building was based off of a real homeless shelter that was done in Dallas.
Okay.
Now,
so did they give you like dimensions?
No, nothing. So, okay. So with the design build competition, the judges are the company who actually built this project. So they will see through any flaws immediately that's within your law. Like any logic that you might have, they'll see within the flaws.
Right.
We didn't do too well. It was a great learning experience, but we didn't do too well. But nonetheless, so at this competition, the way that it works is that you spend Saturday putting together your whole proposal. You have to have it turned in by midnight. Sunday is then treated as a travel day out to Hurst, Texas, which sits between Dallas and Fort Worth. Sunday afternoon is more so just a dinner, and you draw time slots for presenting. So from there, Monday, you present to the actual judges, but it's also a networking event. So I should say job fair almost, because that's really what it is. So we had presented early in the day just to kind of get the presentation out of the way. And so come Monday, during breakfast, we had some recruiters for this company approach us, and they were really cool and everything, and fairly small company. Long story short, I hit it off well with them. They were a general contractor, and I had hit it off well with the 2 guys that were there. And they're like, oh, you should come back later in the day and meet the third project manager. I think you really like her and get along with her. So I was like, cool, no worries. I was like, I'll keep walking around, see what other stuff there is.
Mm-hmm.
I actually ended up spending a lot of, so they had a racing simulator there. And as someone who loves cars and racing, I spent a lot more time there than I really should have. But so later on in the day, I'm kind of just walking around and I bump into the project manager that I had talked to, and he's like, "Oh, there you are." He's like, I need you to meet this other lady. So I was like, okay, cool. I got dragged along and I met her, and it ended up in an internship offer from them as well. So
nice.
I was like, all right, cool. And so I was like, I think it'd be a little more beneficial to intern with a general contractor than a subcontractor. So I took on their offer, and that's actually who I'm still employed with to this day. So that's, I attribute a lot of that to the TechSo competition and everything. But so that was really cool to have that. And so I always try to spread the word to other students, just the kinds of opportunities that can happen when you're a little bit more involved in school and can participate. Because I tell a lot of, especially underclassmen, that when you attend these types of events, you really stand out as a candidate because, you go to a school-sponsored job fair and it's like, all right, well, everyone's on the same playing field. They're all students. It's a lot harder to stand out versus when you have the same job fair but at a competition, and it's like, oh, this student's more involved. This student's really putting a foot forward to
get immersed with the industry.
Yes. And so I tell a lot of students that, hey, it might suck having to network and talk to people, but I'm like, unfortunately,
it could be nerve-wracking sometimes.
It is. I remember when I started, I'm like, I knew no one. I didn't know anything. I was nobody. And
right.
So as I've started just kind of doing these competitions and this and that, I've gotten to meet a lot of people, which actually has me segueing into CMAA, which, so as I stated at the start, I am the current president of the Collin College student chapter. So CMAA, the Construction Managers Association of America, they are an organization that their goal is to essentially try to build up better, stronger future construction managers for the industry. Because as a whole, if we continue to produce quality construction managers, we can then strengthen our industry and, keep this career field alive and necessary. So they offer various kinds of certifications and whatnot. But so my sophomore year, one of the professors had sent out a scholarship offer. And essentially all it was, it's your typical scholarship thing where you write an essay a little bit about yourself, describe what kinds of things you're doing and whatnot. And so she had mentioned to me that she had a contact who she was trying to start a student chapter with at Collin. But she'd been having just a little bit of trouble because, the big thing is that professor is very, very busy. So she had sent out that invite for the scholarship. I put in for it. Long story short, I got one of the top 5 prizes for it. I was invited to a scholarship dinner that they were hosting. It was an award dinner where they were also going to hand out the scholarships. And it was there that I met with her contact within CMA. And I had mentioned that she mentioned to me that there was some kind of interest in starting and establishing a student chapter at Collin. So I asked him about it, and he was like, oh yeah, we've been in the talks about it, but the problem is she's like really busy and I don't really have any other contact within Collin. So do you mind taking on this project and trying to get this up and running? And I was like, I don't want to say no because, I'm like, how can I turn this down? I'm like,
yeah, it's a great opportunity.
Well, not even so much that. I was like, I don't want to look bad and say no.
No.
That was really it. I was just like, I don't really know what I'm getting myself into. I don't know.
Right.
I'm just like, I just don't want to say no, because at this event, I had started talking to just some of the people there, and I quickly realized that all the people who were attending were high-level industry professionals. We're talking like senior project managers, owners, CEOs, senior superintendents, like really high-level people.
Right.
And I was like, I don't want to say no, because I don't want to look bad in front of these guys. But also, if I can somehow pull this off and like, get it running, I'm like, this will look really good on me, and it'll open up a really good opportunity to make friends with a lot of people within CMAA, and put my name out there. So I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Yeah, I would love to spearhead this project for you. So that ended. That I go home, and I was like, okay, I have no idea what I just got myself into. Let's hope that this works out all right. So here comes the fall of 2024 at this point. I hadn't heard a whole lot. We'd had a meeting here or two just about the paperwork to get it established, and the professor was kind enough and she took over all of that. And after a few months of back and forth, we had it more or less up and running, and we had our first meeting just to kind of go over all the information in November. And the school treated it, the construction program treated it as a big deal, and we had a huge turnout just from all levels of classmen. And so we thought it went really well. So we sort of put that off until the spring semester started, where we held our first get together. And so essentially what we do is we have industry leaders come in about once a month and just sort of talk to the students, give them an idea that a lot of students go into the construction program thinking, okay, either I'll graduate and go on to become a superintendent or a project manager. When in reality, there's way more. Yeah. And so we kind of wanted to try to bring in industry professionals to talk about the various kinds of roles that exist out there, but then also the importance of networking, and through these events sort of give the students an opportunity to network with their classmates, network with these industry professionals, and hopefully muster up the courage to attend CMA events outside of just the school, where then they can really begin building a network. So the funny thing was, once we got this club sort of up and running, we needed to establish a board for the club. And the professor was like, all right, you're president. I was like, I am? She's like, yep. I'm like, do I have a choice? She's like, nope, I'm not giving you any choice. I'm like, great, because I'm not busy enough as is. So let me just preface this by saying I work full-time, go to school full-time, and then, just trying to have a life outside, but then also still competing in the competitions and running the student chapter. It's a lot sometimes. So I just joke that I'm often busy, but I mean, crazy as it can be sometimes, I think it's fun. Not to mention, I always make it a talking point to say that it's cool that I feel like through having attended Collin, I've had opportunities that I would not have had otherwise. I feel like I feel like I'm I'll be able to lead a more successful career and earn more money than I would have any other way. And for that, I'm eternally grateful to the school. And a lot of people tell me that it's, you only get as much out of it as you put in.
Right.
And it's definitely true to an extent, but I feel as though that there are many other students who were in the same boat that I was, where, first generation, you don't know anyone. It's a big, scary world out there. And I thought, what better way to help ease them into it than give them a space to where they can hopefully get more comfortable and earn some kind of certification to help them out and just begin establish themselves somehow. So I really think of this as a way to pay it forward to those who are coming after me, and just as a thanks to the school that, had it not been for this, I'd probably still be working at Costco, right. Absolutely hating it. So, yeah, I mean, so that's more or less been my story with college, just getting up to the point where I'm at. So it's been a long one. I've got plenty left to go, but
right, because you're in your third year, so you have one left.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have any plans as in regards to what your goals are for the next year?
So I am planning more so just staying with the current company I'm at. They primarily do schools, but I would eventually like to try to work my way into becoming an owner's representative, which, to try to keep it simple, you're basically like a middleman for whoever's trying to build something and then the contractor. So like, say Apple doesn't know how to build a building. They build phones and computers and software. So here I come in as an owner's representative, where they hire me on early in the project to kind of help them write up contracts, get an idea of what it'll cost, what the timeline will be. And then I sort of consult them on, okay, here's what you look for in an architect. Here's what you look for in engineers. Here's what you look for in a general contractor. And essentially my job is to protect the owner from, or in this case, protect Apple from potential bad contractors, potential bad architects, and just try to provide them my wealth of knowledge so that they can build the building as smoothly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I earn a commission of a certain percentage of whatever the total project cost is. But you also have to really be knowing what you're doing. So I think it'd be kind of fun to get to do that and kind of just work with clients in that way. That's more or less a long-term goal. But for now, keep it small, try to get experience where I can. I love the company I'm with. I think I'm more or less set for the time being.
Okay. And what about for CMAA?
So CMAA is a little more complicated. I'm trying to make sure that I can get this club fully up and operational by itself because, as you mentioned, I have 1 year left. So I have a year left to sort of sort out as many kinks as I can. And I had to find a replacement president. So I kind of have a lot cut out for me there. But I'd like to keep the student club running. And even after graduating, stay involved with the actual North Texas chapter for CMAA. Where there's talks of me helping them travel out to, I think UNT at the moment is trying to start up a CMAA student chapter, and they've asked if I would go up there with them to kind of talk about my experience and how they can go about it. And I, anything that I can do to help CMAA out, I think it'd be really fun to just stay involved with them and, just keep creating my network and building up my own connections for the industry.
Well, yeah, that sounds like some really good goals you have with place of work and student chapter with CMAA.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have any mentors that you would like to maybe speak about that helped you with challenges?
So funny enough, I don't have necessarily an official mentor, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of this I've kind of just figured out on my own, but I always think of that professor who's helped me along with CMA. I always look up to her more or less as a mentor. She has been an absolute gem to me since I met her way back. I think it might have been first semester. she has been an incredible help to me, and I have a lot to thank her for. On top of that, since joining CMAA, I also made another friend there who is way more established in the industry and has had some years working it now. And I've always kind of been able to call him and ask him for help should I need anything. And I know he's always got my back with stuff. So while I can't say I've officially had a mentor, I've always looked up to those two as mentors, and it's been nice having them around. It feels good to have someone that I can sort of rely on in case I have questions, especially just being so new to this industry that, you know, it can be a lot sometimes. So, yeah.
Oh, my bad. I'm talking with the mic muted. Wait, was it muted that whole time?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, my goodness.
It's all good.
But I mean, yeah, I really enjoyed hearing your story. It was very inspirational. I mean, as someone that's just in their associates program now, you know, hearing your story and how far you've come along, I believe is very inspirational. I'm trying to navigate throughout Colin and navigate my way through life, and you know, there's some points that I hit that are just like, well, where do I go next? Or what do I do next? Yeah. And, you know, Colin has been an amazing support system for me and my journey through, I mean, just from when I started till, you know, now I'm close to near graduation. So I think our stories were pretty relatable. I mean, even our background, I'm really surprised that you've got, you know, 3D printing and gaming and machining, and the construction industry is just, I mean, rapidly growing in the state we're in right now. And I mean, I'm seeing and hearing you do all these amazing things, and I really can't wait to follow up with you and see how you're doing in the future and how CMAA is going.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's you know, especially here in DFW, I mean, there's construction going on left and right, and it's nice knowing that this is one of the few industries where it's like, I don't want to say it's necessarily recession proof, but you know, there's always construction going on. If not here in DFW, somewhere else, there's plenty of work to go around, and it's good knowing that I'll theoretically never be without a job. So I think I definitely chose the right industry, and it's also helpful knowing that you're working in an industry that, or in a field that you enjoy. I think there's no greater satisfaction than knowing that, hey, I built this and people now use it.
Yeah, I feel the same. Being a welder out in the industry, sometimes I'll drive by my work and I'll be like, oh, that looks nice. You know, like when you take a step back and you look at it in a full picture, you know, all that sweat, especially in that Texas heat, like you're talking about. Little did I know my long sleeve that was protecting me from the sun was a thermal.
Oh.
The whole summer, I was just wearing a thermal.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. So I remember when I worked in concrete, I always did long sleeves and, you know, covered up as much as I could. And I had other friends who were like, how do you do it? I'm like, look, man, it's better because you need to protect yourself from the sun. But then two, you might start off feeling a little hot, but as disgusting as it sounds, once you begin to sweat, like it goes from being hot to just cooling you off. And like you kind of just get adjusted to it, and you know, at the end of the day, you want to be protected from the sun,
right?
Especially in the Texas heat. So I'm like, I don't want to play around with it, so I'm gonna cover up even if I feel hot.
Right. Yeah, so, I don't like that sticky sweat feel. So I go fully covered too.
I say, for me, it's always helped having UV rated like clothes. Helped out a whole lot, but I mean,
that.
Yeah, so now that I'm a little more aware of it, I prefer that. But when I worked in construction, it was just any old cotton long sleeve or whatnot,
Right.
which I've since learned. I'm like, no, it's actually not great. But I got to a point where I was buying UV sleeves, and that made a world of a difference in feeling just a lot cooler. So look into it. It'll definitely help out.
Yeah, I might implement that into my little work wardrobe. So yeah, no, I thank you for that recommendation.
Yeah, no problem.
And also, when you're talking about the CAD, took an AutoCAD class in high school, and then whenever we were doing the electrical CAD, I was looking at it like, what? What is going on here? But you're right. Same platform, just different functions. But
exactly. No, I did Fusion 360 in high school, and then did AutoCAD in college, as well as Mastercam, which is more machining focused. And what was the other one? SolidWorks.
Yes.
Was the other program. So I knew a few, which is why the professor was just so confident about me and my skills. And I was like, you don't know what you're talking about, man. I'm like, we need an architect. And he's like, no, we'll be fine. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. What about the NAHB competitions? Did you attend any of those?
I haven't done them. I've been invited twice now, and I turned them down both times.
Right. And is that one's more geared towards residential?
Yeah. So NAHB
is more towards the commercial.
Yeah. So with NAHB, you essentially design a community. You have to plan out, like, they'll give you a plot of land, but you plan out like where the streets go. You plan out what kinds of houses you have, what model houses you have, what kind of amenities is your little community going to offer, like that sort of stuff. It's pretty cool, but I'm like, I just don't really care for it. So
we used to do that in my high school class. It was a trade high school class, but we had that implemented in our history class. I tried to build a dirt bike track on my property.
Nice.
That I got the plot of land, and there was marsh all over the land. I had to like rent some equipment, like heavy equipment, and then that went part into my budget as well. So I was like, but having the heavy equipment to like be able to keep up with the track as well.
Yeah.
But I know they gave us free reign on what we wanted to build, so I was like, oh yeah, dirt bike track. Actually, now that I think about it, we had a school-wide project. So it was implemented in all of our courses, our core and we had to take mandatory construction and engineering in my high school. So we were able to build it in our construction class and then draft it in our engineering class. And then
that's so cool.
In our history class, we would write about it, but also, I guess, work with the budget and, figure out how we're going to do it. But I think that's kind of what really brought me to where I am now, is having that background.
We had so I'm currently taking a construction technology class, and where one of the chapters that we went over was Revit. And so we had to build just like an easy model of a house. And the professor was like, customize it, add some touches to your own. Like, here's his website where you can download like different 3D models to add into it. Well, long story short, I got bored, and there's a T-Rex skeleton sitting in the front yard of the house that I turned in. So I was like, why not? Why not throw in a T-Rex?
Nice. So it's really cool to hear how far you've come along, because we have pretty similar stories. But I mean, looking how far you are ahead, like I'm looking up to you, and I'm like,
appreciate that.
You're doing amazing things, and I can't see what you're up to on LinkedIn and what you got going on around campus. So,
oh, cool.
Yeah. So our classes were hands-on manufacturing. Okay, wait. Let me think about this real quick. Manufacturing, composites, robotics and automations, welding, blueprint reading, and then we had plastic injection molding in our curriculum. But the company that we had partnered with or whatnot, I don't know what happened to the specifics, but it was no longer on our program anymore. But I was like, oh, this is awesome, because at a time when at the time I was going to Job Corps and they had partnered with a local college. They said, okay, you could choose a trade on Job Corps, which you could get trained on campus, or we could bus you over to the college and, you could take a various of options. And so manufacturing technology was one of those options. Yeah, I was like, oh, why pick one when you can have them all? So I kind of was like dabbling in a bunch of trades, and which is why I'm telling you, like, your background really looks like my background. So yeah, we have those similarities, which is so crazy when you keep saying manufacturing. I'm like, oh my goodness, like I went through well, yours was an associate's though, right? Or was it also?
Yeah, so I had, in earning the associates, you earn a certification or two, but I wanted to have some kind of degree to my name, which is why I had chosen to go for the associates one. But if you want to talk about an impressive machine shop, Dallas College has an amazing machine shop. It's so cool with, all these different kinds of things. But I mean, it's funny because I still miss it. I still think manufacturing was a lot of fun. But it's like, unless you go the engineer route, it won't pay.
Right.
So I'm like, yeah, like it sucks, but I'm like, it is what it is. And so I'm like, I've always wanted to get myself just at least like a little 3D printer. I recently saw a mini CNC machine. And I was like, you know what? I'm like, this would be really cool. I think I saw
like the mini, like mill or the mini lathe?
a mini CNC mill. And I think I saw it online for like $300.
Oh.
And I was like, this would be so cool to have. My girlfriend would hate it, but I'm like, this would be so cool.
I've seen one real life. But also, regarding the 3D printers, did you know that the library at the tech campus has a bunch of 3D printers that allows you to print? And then they also have the maker spaces.
I need to check all that out. The problem is I just haven't had a chance with how busy I get. I don't have a chance to 3D model. So you
can print off Thingiverse and they will print it for you because they're.
The thing is, I enjoy creating the models. That's where I have fun.
Okay.
I'm like, 'cause I don't really care necessarily for like the finished product. I just enjoy the process of building a model.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so the thing is, for the longest time, so I currently drive a Honda Civic, right? I used to have an F-150 pickup truck. In that truck, I think I had 12 potential cup holders, right? Which, let me just say, I acknowledge that this is a stupid point, but nonetheless, I had about 12 cup holders, and in my Honda, I have tops 4. And so I'm like, okay, well, how do you go from having 12 cup holders to then having to adjust to 2, or 2 up front, 2 in the back? I think the F-150 had 8 in the front.
Oh.
So I'm like, I'm having to adjust to this. And like, at this point, I've driven my Civic for 3, almost 4 years now. And so I'm used to it. But I've always wanted to create a cup holder to put in the side of the door. And I've just never gotten around to it. I'm like, I got to get around to it before I graduate school so I can actually use the printer in the library to print it out. But that's been my one stupid goal this whole time. I just want more cup holders.
Yeah, no, I did a similar car project. I had a beat up, what was it, like Toyota Camry that I got because I wanted to build from the bottom. I wanted to work on the car with any mechanical problems or any interior problems. And when I bought the car, my little mirror, the flip on it had broke off the hinges.
Oh.
But I'm not that great at reverse engineering or creating my own designs yet.
Yep.
Colin offers a bunch of classes for that, CE classes
Oh.
that I've been looking into. Yeah, if you are interested, they have $1,500 in scholarship money that you are guaranteed. I am telling you right now, it is guaranteed for that scholarship. I printed off Thingiverse the little hinges, and I had wet sanded it and bondoed it and spray painted it, and that was like, I mean, the things that you can do is just amazing.
Exactly.
Especially with 3D printers. I was able to print that
so addictive.
Yeah.
Like, right? It's amazing that you can just kind of take an idea and just create it your own.
Yeah, I thank you. I really thank you. No, especially, you know what? Did I even tell you that I spoke to the dean today, and I got
how did that go?
Well, first of all, the dean's super, super, super busy. I'm including it's like a Sherry situation, but I mean, he spoke to me for like 2 minutes and was like, yeah, we support you in your student chapter. We support you in your Collin College student engagement or organization. And, you know, talk to these appropriate people, and, you know, we'll look to start it in the fall. And so I was like, you know, at that point, I was just worked up because this has been my dream. I definitely think I needed that pep talk, but at the same time, like, I only got 2 minutes and I didn't say much. So
no, congrats on that. That's
all the
huge.
information that you gave me was like key information, and, you know, all the chats we've had on this platform, you know, amazing. So
I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah.
I say it's my turn next because I somehow need to pitch CMAA to the dean. So we'll see.
If you want to leave your LinkedIn or where people can find you that are listening.
It's whatever your typical LinkedIn link is / I think it's Ricky Aguilar 115.
Okay.
I think that should have it pop up. So.
Okay, yeah. Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you so much for sharing your story, and you know, I'll see you around campus.
Yeah, no, for sure. Thank you for having me on. This was really cool, a lot of fun. So I appreciate you just kind of giving me a platform to just share my story.
Aloha Kanaka, thank you for tuning in. I know I've been a little MIA, but I've been out in the industry working hard, networking to bring the most incredible stories on our platform. Stay tuned at Kanaka of All Trades